Hi everyone, my name is Nick Gam, and today I'm going to show you around the MindGarden Deployment Assistant. First off, I'm going to go ahead and log in. The Deployment Assistant is really here to help with complex migrations and data transformations that you commonly see during SaaS deployments. The bulk of the work is done inside of a deployment. So a deployment flow is created and named. We'll just call this one a simple transform. And if we open up the deployment, we can see the flow is ready to be built. Unfortunately, there is nothing for us to use. We can create a file source, but we have no files, and we can create an API node, but we have no API connections. So before we can really build out this deployment flow, we need to first create some of those resources. I'm going to start by just creating a simple CSV file. This CSV file is a Active Directory sample. It's meant to help illustrate this transformation. It's a very simple schema. The next thing we're going to need is we're going to potentially need a place to write this data to. I'm going to go ahead and create just a simple blob storage. We can use external databases. Different connection types are supported. For this sample, I'm just going to go with something really simple. We'll just call this transformed. And this is where we'll put our transformed data once it goes through a transform object. I'm also going to go ahead and create an API. An API connection can be used as a source or a destination. And for this example, I'm going to go ahead and create one of our built-in APIs. So we can either support custom API, or we can support one of our built-in APIs that we've kind of built support in for. For this example today, I'll go ahead and connect to my Vesa lab. Now, a great feature of the deployment assistant is once you've created a connection, and you can create many connections here, once you've created a connection to an API, we can easily go through and test these connections and just make sure that they work. This is also great for different prototyping exercises where you need to understand how the API works, and you don't want to have to go grab Postman or do a bunch of that kind of stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just grab the Echo API here from Vesa's API, hit the test button, and you can see the request as well as the response that we got back. And as you go through and choose different options here, like if we choose a different API, you can see that we're pulling from OpenAPI spec what the body is what the payload is required for the request, and you're able to go through and modify those and update those as necessary to test the different APIs. One other thing to look at before we go back to a deployment flow is this transforms. Transform nodes can be used without a script, or in the case of needing to do more complex business logic, we can actually create a transform script, and we can use one of our built-in templates to get started, or we can just freeform write this code as necessary. I'm just going to call this one just something like CSV to OA, because this is using Vesa's OA API as an example. Going back to the deployments, I'll go ahead and go back to that deployment designer. Now I'm able to build something of value. I'll start with a deployment, a flow trigger. This is really where our flows start, and it's the first thing that gets executed. We can choose a manual trigger, a scheduled trigger, if you want to grab a specific date and have it run automatically. And then we can also generate a webhook, so an API for you to trigger it programmatically. For now, I'm just going to create a manual trigger. I'll call it start. And the next thing I'm going to want to do is probably pull in the data from the flat file, the CSV file. So we can go ahead and call this one AD sample. And we can select that CSV file that we created. And we'll always be able to see the flow of either the triggers or the data visually in the flow designer. The next thing we're going to do is just a simple transform. And so that we don't get going too long and creating too complex of a flow in this example, we'll just make this a simple transform. You can see I could choose to use that script that I created. But I'm actually going to just go ahead and use our blob storage and just map some attributes from our CSV into that storage just to show the rest of the flow without taking up too much time. So I'm going to go with a direct copy. You can see we have different mapping types supported. I'm going to go with a direct copy for department. Display name, an interesting example that we could use is instead of using the display name input source, we could actually use a concatenation of the input's given name and surname and give it a separator, maybe a space. And now you can see that the data is all flowing in to these designated output fields, if you will. And I'll go ahead and map just one more. We'll just map this to distinguish name. Finally, let's go ahead and plop it into that empty blob storage that we created, just to show a flow running end to end and what that output data looks like. Now you can see I initialized that blob storage without any attributes, so there's no schema whatsoever. We'll go ahead and just create a few fields to put that data in. And I'll map it. And this one's display name. And I'll map it. And finally, distinguish name. Great. I'll go ahead and click save. This is an incredibly simple flow. We could grab that API node, and if the data is looking good, we could go ahead and select the Vesa API. We could go ahead and select one of those endpoints. Maybe we want to push the data to the OA endpoint, which is the custom providers endpoint for Vesa. And that is one way of doing this. I'll show you though that if I'm gonna click on, and you can see there's a lot of them. If I select this API and then go through to do the attribute mapping, you can see that it's going to get really complex, where I'm going to have to map and create the different fields required for the body. So rather than use an API node, we actually can support plugins as well. And plugins actually use SDKs instead of APIs. Just to show you real quick what that could look like is just for Vesa is we could actually choose the Vesa's the Vesa OA SDK, choose the API, and choose to create a provider, create a data source, push an application's data source, etc. And that would be a much easier way of doing it when instead of an API node. So I think the idea is if there's a plugin supported, probably go with that route. If there's not a plugin already supported, we can just grab a raw API node and call any API separately. I will delete that one for this example. A couple things to show you before I hit play. We also have AI tools fully supported. Now, AI tools, this is not a wrapper for OpenAI. It's not a ChatGPT clone. Instead, we actually have models deployed in our product that are fine-tuned to specific products that we're looking to support. So in this case, for this example, this chat could be fine-tuned for Vesa deployments. And then we could use the chat menu, which I can sort of show you with my mouse up here, to have conversational interactions with this AI for help. For example, this I don't know how to do this in Vesa, or I don't know what this API requires as far as what parameters I need to send, etc. So the chat could really help with any of your first line defense issues that you run into during a deployment. But you also could use it agentically as a tool. And the idea is after I've populated enough of this blob storage or after I've done certain types of transformations, I may want to have an AI go through and do some other things for me. Maybe it's create complex expressions. Maybe it's do some type of data sanitization. There's a lot of different things that we could use the AI for that is beyond just conversational support. There are a few other tools that I won't get into right now. Analytics is your more analysis type functionality, and then visuals would be if you want to have it actually create visual output and diagrams. We can sort of see that here inside the designer. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and click Run Flow. And you can see that the flow executed successfully. But let's not take my word for it. Let's close it, hit storage. And now we can look inside of that storage, that blob storage, and we can see all of the data has been transformed and put into the storage. Now you can think about how this could potentially be used in more complex designs. We mentioned earlier how we could write to an API. We could also pull data from different APIs. Think for example, a SailPoint migration. You could pull data from SailPoint, you could stage it in blobs, and then you could write that data to a Vesa API or to any API, to be honest. That's kind of the tricky thing with brownfield migrations is there's always a lot of moving parts, and there's always a lot of complexity and very specific logic to each individual business. And so this allows you to orchestrate that very visually, very easily, and stage it all and ensure that it works. Run it and automate your entire um, deployment. And it even allows you to transform your data without separate transformation scripts, and switching from different environments, from a sandbox staging environment, production environment, is just a separate API connection. So you just create an extra connection for those different environments and then drop in a node for those environments. Makes it incredibly easy to really build out your entire deployment end to end. One other exciting use case to explore is infrastructure as code. By simply exporting the flow, we can support uploading to version control and even pushing controlled templates to the deployment flow designer's APIs. This would allow you to visually create your flows, manage them in version control, and programmatically push those templates to whatever environment the deployment is configured for. Every single object that you can create in the deployment flow designer has a templates UI. The more you create, the more you can reuse. This even includes when you're creating a transform. And when you're creating different things like analytics or other types of objects. All of our APIs are documented and easy to use using OpenAPI spec. That's it for today. Thank you for letting me share. More updates to come. Sign up for the waitlist, cloud.mindgardenai.com.